Hey, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. Today we have Ola King. I'm super excited to finally connect again. I think we first met a year ago, almost a year ago in November. It was like a Vancouver-based Notion meetup that we did. And it's really cool now to see what you've done with Notion. So Ola, I know you're an onboarding specialist. You do like customer engagement. Tell us a little bit more about what your role is at Moz, because you work at a pretty big company, right? Or a pretty well-established company. So tell us a little bit more. And are you guys using Notion at work? I'm really curious.
Yeah, right. So I'm an onboarding specialist at Moz. It's a bit different from it is with a lot of other companies. We have like a combination of automated onboarding and also very high touch. So I'm kind of in the middle of that. I set up the processes for the automated walkthroughs and making sure that customers have what they need within their free trials. And then I also do talk to customers as well, take calls, make sure that we get their questions answered. And yeah, we also recently started doing group walkthroughs as well, which was yeah, so that was an initiative that started a couple of months ago. And that's for customers who maybe don't know the questions to even ask. And then they can be in a very group setting, and then we can be able to help them that way as well. So yeah,
how many people do you have in a group? And is it like all from one team, or is it people across different teams that would be doing this sort of thing?
People from across different teams. The one-on-one walkthroughs tends to be between one person or a group from a team, whereas the group walkthroughs has just been people from different organizations. It's not very personal. It's not like we don't really go into someone's website or someone's business. It's just SEO as a field has a lot of confusing parts. So there's a lot of general questions that people can ask in a group setting to still make it valuable for everyone.
Yeah, you must learn a ton, I'm sure, from the group onboarding, and that you can kind of bring into the automation as well, right? Like you're probably learning constantly between the two.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a double, I guess, feedback loop. The one-on-one leads to group walkthroughs. The group walkthroughs lead to one-on-ones. It's exciting.
Amazing. And are you guys using Notion at work, or is it more you personally that's using it, or a bit of both?
So, no, that was not a nod to say we use. We don't use Notion at work yet.
Oh, interesting.
We are very much in Confluence, and which makes sense. When I joined the company, even I was still using my personal task in Confluence, and I was able to convince my manager to let me use my Notion for my own task because I just work a lot faster that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been able to convince a bunch of my colleagues to switch to Notion, and it's slowly happening.
Slowly infiltrating.
Slowly happening.
So how long have you personally been using Notion now?
On and off, well, around 2017, I would say, when they initially launched the first version on Product Hunt, and it was not very good at the time. But I tested it for a few weeks and then just never used it again.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was reading an article by, it was very crazy. I was reading an article by Nat Eliason who mentioned Naval, and then I got into the Naval rabbit hole, and then I found out that he's an investor in this company called Notion. And then I was like, oh, I remember seeing Notion before, so I ended up trying it again, and it was still pretty glitchy at the time, but it just seemed like it was a better fit to the way my brain works. Because I'd been using Trello, and I was a Trello power user at the time. Like I was using the automations, but I always felt it wasn't customizable. It felt like it was limiting what I could do. Yeah. So as soon as I would rather at that point use a very buggy Notion than use a very plain Trello.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you using it mostly for task management and personal stuff, or did you have like creative projects then that you were working? Because I know we're going to go into the Black Group project, but curious if it was more for just kind of keeping track of your own personal tasks at first. Is that kind of how you were using it initially?
Yeah, initially, it's actually interesting. When I was a Power Trello user and I kept helping people set up their Trello, I was actually creating a Trello course. And I was going to create a Trello course using Trello. And when when I migrated to Notion, I was going to do the same with Notion. And then I just got more interested in the world of possibilities that I could do with Notion. And
Yeah.
I just put that on the back burner. So I used it more for personal tasks, and whenever like I'm doing like camping with my friends, for example, I'll just set up a Notion page and just get people to use it that way. And I got a lot of my friends to start using it from just sharing things like that.
I feel like, yeah, most of us here can probably relate to that. I know Danny in the chat here is a power user too, so I think most of us have friends that are pretty used to us singing the gospel.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so do you want to start sharing the evolution of the Black Root project and maybe when you started working on it? And if you're ready, if you want to do a screen share, we can dive into this project in particular.
Can you see my screen yet?
I can't.
Oh, I thought I shared that. Just a second. Let's try this again.
Sounds like we've got also former Trello power users. Yeah.
Okay, how about now?
Yep, we can see it. Awesome.
And let's see.
Inbox.
Right. Can you see that move?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, the inbox as OneNote, which was the things that I put in X for this. Yeah, so the Blackfoot, it wasn't something that I had planned to create. So it's a mix of like different things that just combine into one day. We had been working on a new project for onboarding to create the FAQs for what we get from onboarding, and just like do I need my microphone on? Do I need to have my video on? Just little questions like that. And it was a collaborative project. So it was like everyone across the team were just putting in the questions that they get. So that was my first insight into crowdsourcing a document. But it was nothing. It was just like, oh, interesting. You can get everyone to do something together. And then that was the week of George Floyd, and there was just a whole lot going on. And being a Black person, it was very tough. So it was very emotional. And I had a lot of friends. Most of my friends are non-Black, so I know that that's just not how the world is. And I know my friends that are like that, it's because they were educated. They had more insights than many people do. So I knew like education was a solution, but I didn't know how. But I was just answering questions that people were having on Twitter, Facebook, and I started getting bored of answering the same questions over and over again. And that's the typical me. Whenever I do something two or three times, I just want to automate it as much as I can.
Yep.
So I ended up just having a Google Doc with answers to frequent questions. And then from there, I started noticing that there were all these resources like the Black Lives Matter card website. And I liked it, but it felt too, it was too like donate, here's where to protest. It was just not the way I operate. I am not an activist at all. I guess I am, but in a more of a let's learn together as opposed to protesting. So I figured there should be an alternative to that approach, and I still didn't know how to approach it. But these were all just random thoughts that were just popping in my head that were coming together. And Muzz actually gave everyone in the company a Black Lives Matter day to just do whatever you want. Like if you need to use the day to decompress, if you needed to protest, if you needed to go learn, just do whatever you want. And I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to go out to protest because there was still COVID, and I was very afraid. So that morning I woke up, and the very first thing that came to my head was, what about the FAQ that you guys created? Like, I don't know where that came from, but I was just like, I wonder if people would be willing to create a resource for the Black community with me. And I was like, I don't know the answer, but I'm just gonna try. And right away I went onto the Slack channel at work, and just shared a Google Doc that I quickly created and see if anyone would contribute. And I closed my Slack and continued with my day. Came back later, there was like 20 entries already. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And yeah, so people just kept submitting. I even thought of the incentives, like what would people want to see? Like, why would anyone want to submit to this? And I even put a little section that says submitted by. I was thinking maybe that would appeal to people's ego or whatever. But surprisingly, no one, not a single person put their name in the submitted form. So everyone kept doing it anonymously, which is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so rad. Yeah, that's really cool. It just started with an FAQ.
Yeah, it was just a simple, I can actually show you that. It was a simple Google Doc. Not very pretty at all. So this was where it started from. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. So it was a simple doc, and every single thing that you see here was added after a feedback. So these categories, people didn't know what to add, so I just created a category. Every time someone asked me, oh, can I submit a book? Can I submit a podcast? I'm like, yeah, whatever you can send, and I would create the category in this. And when you go to the Blackfoot itself, the FAQs that you see here are based on the questions people were asking me when I was sharing it with them. Like, oh, who is this for? Can I share with my Black friends? Can I share with my white friends? So every time I get those questions, I just put them here as well. As I said, when I get a question more than twice, I try to automate it.
It's the automated part of you, right? That just wants to like make everything so streamlined and efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. And so when did you finally, share this resource publicly? And so you were working with this with the team. Were there other people outside of Moz as well who were kind of helping crowdsource this?
Yeah, so I don't even know. That's the sad part, because once it got out of my hands, it was just appearing in places I had never imagined. So like I would do a search of that ugly Google URL, and I would just find it like on some Russian website. And I didn't know, I couldn't speak the language, so I didn't know how it even got there. I shared it on my Instagram. I did a quick poll. I think I have that somewhere here. So it was a bit planned. A lot of this happened within like a day. Like it was literally like a day project, but it was planned. Like I wrote down each step. So I messaged my friends. This was an example of the message I sent to my friends. So I'm working on a fun project. Please help me add to it. And then once that was complete and I saw that I got like 10 messages, then I would continue to the next step, which is do an Instagram survey, see if anyone would submit. And then people kept submitting stuff as well. So it was just like snowballing like that. It was just, it was planned, but planned very quickly.
I love that idea of using the Instagram stories as a way to capture those questions.
Yeah, that was the annoying one though, because people were messaging me. And remember, I'm trying to automate this. So I ended up having to input that manually by myself. But I mean, the goal was to get people to respond. So that worked.
Right. You got to hire a virtual assistant for that. Have somebody else behind the scenes.
Yeah, I should. That's something I'm trying to get into the habit of, buying back my own time. Yeah.
That's amazing. So obviously Instagram was a little bit more manual. You've got your Google Doc, which is super easy for people to collaborate in. How often then were you taking the information from Google and then, bringing it back over into the Notion document? What did that process look like?
Yeah, so I actually waited till I had about 80 or so responses. And then I used the import function in Notion to do that. So it was literally just I started with a private page like this, and I just clicked this, and I just clicked import, and that was how it started.
Amazing.
And it was like one spreadsheet, and that was intentional as well, because I figured the only thing that changed was this type of resource. Like nothing changed; they all shared a similar property. It just didn't make sense to duplicate. Yeah. So I just went with one database, and once I did that, then I realized that the database could not be, what do you call it? I can't add the FAQ to a database, so I had to create a bigger Blackfoot database to put this database into, and then I renamed it. I'm sure that's a problem that you come across a lot when you work with Notion. You create a database and you realize you might need other things on the page.
Yes, yes, definitely. No, this is great. And so what has the response been like? I know you said when you first created the Google Doc, you found it everywhere. And so have people been sharing this now? Have people kind of been responding to you, or kind of what's the response been?
Yeah, so it's been mind blowing. Like I said, this was meant to be just for my friends and whoever wanted to know about it. I shared it in the work group. I didn't expect anyone to respond. We do have a diversity channel, so I already knew that posting it in that channel, it's, you're speaking to the choir. Like those are the people that are interested in stuff like that. So you got a lot of response that way, and then people started sharing it from that channel to their own networks, and I started getting like a bunch of LinkedIn requests and messages, and people just started sharing it that way. Facebook, Instagram. I must say, in the first 2 days that I shared it, I personally had like 100 people reach out, just thanking me for the resource. And I felt kind of guilty because it wasn't just all me. It was a very collaborative project. But yeah, the response was really good. It slowed down a little bit, and then I realized that part of the reason was because the URL structure was just not very good. It wasn't very good. That's why I decided a few weeks ago to use Super to clean up the URL. And since then, I've been seeing it on people's like Instagram bio and whatnot.
Oh, amazing.
I'm trying to look at the chat.
Oh yeah, because I know Frances also has, she's made a couple of resources. Frances is going to be coming on office hours soon as well, but it's Black History Month in the UK, so she has a Black History Month resource there as well. There's lots of other really cool resources that are kind of in the same vein, which is great. Yeah, Susan's saying, absolutely amazing. This is another example of when the social media internet works for us rather than against us. Absolutely. Yeah, and I just love that you were willing to like to be open to answering those questions, right? And take an approach that is a little bit more educational as well. Yeah. Just something that people can dive into. And no, I love it. It's really inspiring. So this was a pretty quick project. Kind of took off. It's still doing its thing. I'm curious, I guess, what other parts of your space too, has this influenced other side projects that you're wanting to work on, or kind of other ways that you're using your own Notion space as well? Like what's next for you?
Right. So yeah, that's interesting, which actually leads to why I use Notion instead. Because moving on from the spreadsheets, the logical thing was to create a website, since that did very well. And I studied computer science, so my initial, I guess, inclination is to build an app or build something for whatever I'm working on. But then I had a startup that failed miserably in the past, and that taught me the importance of validating ideas before you go ahead and build something too complicated. So right away, I knew I didn't want to build an app, and I wanted to make it very lightweight. And yeah, I use Notion for everything, so I just figured I should try. And at the same time, I had been exploring this idea of, because I do onboarding for Moz, and I know a lot of customers always keep asking for not just help on how to use the tool, they want you to advise them on their own specific use cases. But I didn't want to do that for Moz because I'm a Moz employee. But I was thinking of other tools out there that could need something like that. So I started exploring that for Notion, and I built a simple landing page for that. And Blackfoot ended up being like a project of that project. So it was a subset of which is the Access Spring you see here. So Blackfoot is a project of Excess Brain.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, tell me more about Excess Brain. What is that?
Yeah.
Like,
so it's still in exploration. I've had a few clients, so to speak. So yeah, it's like you need help with Zapier. You say what you need help with, and we connect you with someone. Initially it was just me, but I've had a few people who I've found online who are very good at different softwares, and I just connect them. So I take 25% of of the profit.
That's so cool. And I assume that Moz is comfortable with people having these like side projects and revenue generating activities outside of the 9 to 5.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I asked when I joined last year. Before I even thought I was going to start any side project. But I know myself. I know I'm very entrepreneurial. I knew I would start something. The first thing I made sure was there wasn't any overlap with Moz. So
that's amazing. Yeah, it's not, you're not competing. You're not kind of taking away business from them. So this is really neat. So what is the process here? Obviously, like, onboarding, right? So I guess this is your thing, and you're trying to find ways to make this stuff easier. So is there like a directory, or kind of what's the next step when someone fills this out and they kind of choose their technology? Are you connecting them with someone? Like you said, initially it was you, so I guess you're just familiar with a lot of these different pieces of tech, so you were kind of helping people learn. Are you providing Notion documents then that help do some of that learning, or what's the next step after someone reaches out?
So yeah, right now the first step is they fill out a type form, and the type form would I don't know if this is type form. This is Calendly, but yeah, anyways. Okay. They fill out a Calendly with whatever they need help with, and then if it's something that I'm able to do, this actually connected to a payment before, but I realized that the idea wasn't validated enough it was just dangerous. I had to do refunds and whatnot. So now people fill out a form, and then I'll get an email, and if it's something that I know that I can do or someone can do, then I'll send them the link to pay, and then whatever they need help with. So I need to set up this Zap. Go ahead, we'll do that. It's very manual. There's a lot of that process that could be automated. Like I know I could use Zapier I know I can actually do a Calendly payment page, so they don't need to, I don't need to email them the link. You could just do that itself. But I just wanted to make it as manual as I can to validate the idea first.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I was curious too, almost why not have an application form so that they could give you a lot more detail first, and then you could be like, oh yeah, they're a good fit, or no, they're not a good fit. I wonder if that's even to prevent having to do the call with someone that maybe isn't a good fit.
Yeah, so this is not a proper application form, but it's because I did think this was a lot of trial and error even to get it to this stage, because initially I would put the form and then the person would not be able to find a time that works for them. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, just for the user experience, I started from what does the person really want? So first they want to know if there's someone that can speak to me. And then after that, they already know their problem. So now it's for us to know what their problem is. And so they might be expecting someone to talk to them. And then right away I message like, oh, just a heads up, we can't do this. And so no one is hurt that way.
Yeah. I feel like this could even be a really great productized service, right? So if you're bundling your 1-hour call with someone with a bit of educational material, and it kind of becomes this little educational resource that you can send people to. So the call is custom, but maybe there's like a resource library of sorts that you've put together that covers the most important parts of those software, the things that trip people up. Yeah.
That is part of the adjacent directions that this is going. So like I said, I wanted to start with the consultation just because that's the way you can learn.
Customer research, right?
Yeah. So from that startup experience that I mentioned, we failed miserably. And what we failed at was the customer side. So building the product was natural to me. What was not natural is talking to people and figuring out what they need. So now I'm obsessed with, okay, before I build anything, I need to know for sure people want this. So
I was going to ask, because your role now obviously seems very focused on that customer experience. So it must have stemmed from that, like, oh man, I really missed the boat on that. So like it became a thing that you really wanted to like understand inside and out.
yeah, that's been a theme with my career, I would say. When I feel at something, I get obsessed about learning it. So it started from building an app, then it failed, and I went to sales, and I actually was working as an insurance salesperson, and I didn't like it at all. And the reason I didn't like it was because I didn't agree with the product, and I felt I needed to understand I needed not to just know how to sell things to people. I need to understand what people really want. So that led me to the path of customers. So I started with customer support, customer success, onboarding, just trying to understand every aspect of solving problems for people, basically. Yeah.
Amazing. There was a question that popped in around why is your submit form a Google spreadsheet? Why not a Notion page?
Yeah. The reason for that was because of customer experience. I figured more people understand how to use Google Sheets than they understand how to use Notion. And yeah, that was basically all of it. It would have been easier for me to have people submit directly, but I just didn't want to force people to use something they weren't comfortable with. Maybe in a few years, hopefully Notion will get to the stage where
Everyone knows,
would use it. I just didn't want that to be the barrier to entry.
Love that. Yeah, that's your like customer experience talking, right? Just knowing when there adds a bit of friction if someone is having to download something that they're not familiar with and having that. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious if you've experimented with any of the other extensions like chilipepper.io for submitting forms right inside of Notion. So maybe having even like a public page that you could share that would have a form embedded or that sort of thing. Is that something you've played with?
I haven't tried Chili Pepper, but I've tried Typeform in it before. Good idea. I could try that again. It's something I could try again. Yeah.
I was just curious about that because that's something I like to experiment with as well. The form functionality of being able to add something right into a database, pretty cool.
Oh, another thing was, I guess now I can, but at the time, the reason why I left this also as a public sheet was because I wanted the, what do you call it? I wanted people to see the evidence that other people were doing it as well. If you go and fill a type form, it's just a type form, just bounce away. But if you're looking at this and you see all these resources, not only do you feel like you can share yours, you can also see examples of what people have shared before. So it sparks an idea. So yeah.
I guess you'd potentially reduce any duplication too. If people were going to go add something and then it was already there in the list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is not how I would prefer to do a project, but this were the lessons applied from previous failures. Like what would make this work? It doesn't matter if I like it. It doesn't matter what my favorite tools are. It's just what people want to use.
Yeah, I love that. I'm curious. I know you've mentioned the failure on the software side, but I was curious how long did you spend building your thing? I guess I'm always curious about this stuff, right? Like just how much time people spend building out an idea before you sort of decide, okay, this isn't working, or I would have done this differently.
Yeah, we actively worked on it for 16 months, like every day working on it.
Full time.
Yeah, full time. More than full time because me and my co-founder, we had other jobs, and I was in school as well. So it was like full on 100-hour weeks for a year and a half. Yeah. But then for 4 months after that, we were not working on it, but we were still thinking about it. We were still, trying to do research on what could work. And it was an event app. And in the process of building the app itself, I realized I didn't care much for events that much anymore. So the passion wasn't there anymore. So the answer to that is for 16 months, we were working on it heads on. And then for another 4 months, we're deliberating if we needed to continue or not.
That's so tough, right? Deciding like whether to double down on something or pull the plug, and but so many lessons, right? I feel like entrepreneurship is just like super condensed, so many lessons that you learn that you just keep bringing into your next projects.
Yeah, so that's how I see them now. I just see them as experiments.
Yeah.
Before it was like get a business, register the business, and it was just all this fancy stuff I didn't need to do. But
Put the
now I
business
don't
plan together. Yeah.
yeah, now I don't even buy domains until I validate the ideas. As you can see, this started from a spreadsheet,
Yeah, I love
and
that.
it had been up for 3 months before I decided to buy a domain for it,
Love that.
which was a mistake because blackfruits.com was available when I started this. I should
Oh
have bought it then.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Gotta act fast. But I love too how with Notion too, how quick it is that you can do a lot in a Notion page, even just to kind of validate an idea and just drop a Notion link and share it with someone, and kind of whether or not you use super.so or not, but just being able to share that Notion page and test the waters on something before getting a website built, before going on the branding, doing all the domain stuff. You can really start small to test the waters, right?
Even the branding, it all came from previous projects as well. Like I already had like a design palette, which is black and white, because I just started to keep it simple. The logo, I can't remember, but I had this tree icon somewhere. It was just things that parts that I had from previous projects I just put together.
A question popped in from Lucia. I tried to do something similar to the Blackroot thing, created a crowdsourced feminist resources Nook in Notion, but I struggled to make it simple enough to collaborate for people without Notion background. I guess the Google Doc part is what makes it more accessible. I'm curious, is Blackroot still an open resource where people continue to add to it? And if so, how is it updated and what does that process look like?
Yeah, so that's actually, you got that spot on. That's exactly the reason why I made it into a spreadsheet, just the accessibility aspect. Updating it, it's a bit manual right now, but it's not a lot of work because it's not that many submissions. I mean, it's got to the point where almost all the resources that people know, they're basically there already now, which is good in a way. So I only do like once every couple of weeks. I just go in and see like the 3 or 4 new submissions that are there, and then I just manually add it to Notion. But yeah.
Awesome.
But the initial add-in was very easy, to be honest. Notion makes it very easy to just import this giant spreadsheet into Notion.
Was there any cleanup or anything that you had to do, or it was just a direct import? It was pretty straightforward.
It was a lot of cleanup for sure. So let's see. There's still some things that break even now. So for example, thank God I have the categories set up correctly, but if I decide to add one new category, this breaks every single thing here.
Does it try and add a new entry or something, or how does
I'm not even sure why that happens, but it's like because there's a new resource type, I think, that just breaks the filters, because this is filtered by the resource type. So I guess that causes something to break. But yeah, anytime I do that, I just notice that the filtering just goes away.
And I imagine too, like, I don't think there's any relational databases or anything happening here. Like, it's pretty simple, right? Just to keep it really easy for anyone to use and to kind of maintain, check out.
I did some of those. I did like formulas, just trying to do too much. And it just wasn't, it didn't seem very intuitive. It just seemed simple. Like one of the things I did initially was I went with just one database and I had a bunch of views, and each view was like one for podcasts, one for other things. And I realized that people that don't know how Notion works don't think to click on any of this drop down. So the answer is I could have made this even simpler than I made it, but I try to make it for anyone that doesn't know how Notion works. So for pros like you, you're probably looking at it as like, this is so inefficient. But I was looking at someone who doesn't know, like, I don't know, my friend's grandmother who doesn't know how this works and just wants to read something.
No, I think that's so smart. Like that's part of it is how do you make those documents super accessible,
Yeah.
and that the instructions are baked in and all that stuff. So I saw Lucia was saying I actually did relational databases with authors and resources. So that's interesting. I'd love to see that resource, Lucia. Definitely love to
Yeah,
see
you should
that.
share that.
Yeah, feel free to separate the different resources in ways that people could read more on the same author or just go to the books, articles, and podcasts. That's interesting. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, interesting. And that's what I love. Like when you see other people's ideas and how they approach it, it just elicits more creativity, right? And people are like, oh, I could totally do this. Like one thing I've been working on for myself too is like ethical brands. So ethical fashion, sustainability resources and things like that. So that's, I'm just always kind of, getting ideas when I see the way other people are distributing this. So it's okay. Share your Spanish-based resources. We love to see.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I just love too how global Notion is, right? So I actually get so tagged so many times in Spanish-speaking posts that I'm like, all right, I think it's time to finally learn Spanish.
Yep.
Love it. Lucia was also asking about what's the difference between super.so and fruition. Were you kind of deciding between the two, or was it just whichever one you heard of first? I know they're kind of similar tools.
Yeah, I was trying the two. Fruition is more manual. You have to set up your own. Basically set up your own. And I was just calculating. We talked about that. You mentioned that earlier about when you mentioned VA, and I said I'm learning to buy back time. Instead of trying to learn, I don't want to be an expert at setting up a Notion domain. So I just figured I would rather pay for the monthly fee for Super. So
yeah, I think it's
1 hour of my time versus $5 a month. It's I don't know, even less than that. Yeah, so it just made more sense to go with that.
It's, I think, one's like open source. It's a little bit more technical. Instructions are great, but it does take a little bit more know-how to set that up. But if you're really trying to save money, you can totally go that route. Otherwise, super.so I think is $4 a month, or it's even cheaper if you have multiple domains. So both are really great options.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have any other questions, either about the project or about this setup. Otherwise, is there anything else that you want to share with us or dig into, or any challenges that came up? Another question just popped in. Someone said, oh, I don't know much about Notion. Could you explain it in a couple of sentences? How would you describe Notion, Ola?
Notion, I told Andrea this from Notion. It's like a Lego box. It's literally a Lego box, and you can make it whatever you want. So you're only limited by your imagination and your experience. And I say experience because when I started using Notion, I made everything super complicated. Like it was like very, very, like I was using a lot of formulas I didn't need to. And I was spending more time managing Notion than I was spending doing stuff with Notion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a Lego box that allows you to create whatever you want. So how useful or how awesome it is depends on your experience and your imagination.
Yeah, it's tough, Alana. Like I use it for daily journaling. I use it for managing my tasks day to day. I use it to store information that you don't want to forget, keep track of online courses that you're taking, any kind of structured data, anything that you would put in a spreadsheet you can use. I realize this is not just a couple sentences, but yeah, I mean, you can really, again, use it for however you want. Storing your art, right? Just even anything that you would catalog, anything that you want to track in any way, shape, or form, you can use Notion for that. So if you ever use Evernote for note-taking, Google Docs, any of that stuff, you can use Notion to. And again, the nice thing is when you start using Notion for all of those different pieces, it's really easy to find your stuff because it all kind of lives in one place.
Right.
So that's Notion in a couple sentences. So yeah, hopefully Alana will want to give it a chance. Amazing. Okay, those are our questions, but are there any other parts of your space or other interesting use cases that for yourself you are either open or willing to share, or that you think are really interesting?
Yeah. So I know you're very familiar with like the para framework by Tiago Forte. Yeah, so that's basically what I use as well. Mine is very, very well. I don't follow exactly how it prescribes it. Mine is my own way. But yeah, I guess the Blackfoot, let me just to put this the way it works, is a project of Access Brain. And this is Access Brain. I haven't updated this in a few weeks. I've been busy with Moz, but this is basically what it looks like. It has its own dashboard with my execution plan, with the different pillars that I'm trying to work on. So the customers aspect, marketing it, developing the product. So each one, like the product, has all the different ideas. So you mentioned having resources when people book the calls.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of an idea on the product. And that has a bunch of other ideas I probably would never have time to get into as well. But that wasn't the point. The point was just to have somewhere to store this and then be able to then refer back to it later. I haven't checked this yet, so it's probably messy, but this is what it looks like.
Cool.
So a lot of different things I see different places, I just like dump it here. And I have the Nike there just because Nike is a brand that has lasted for a long time. And that's also what I try to have with my images in Notion. It's what I want. It's like a mood board. So instead of having a mood board, I have mini mood boards in all my boards.
I love that.
I see this as my garden of ideas of the things I work on. So that's why it looks like a garden.
Love it.
And in each one of this, so like if you go to the marketing, it's probably do something great. So that's the way you can be remarkable as a marketer. You have to do something. Well, it's something remarkable, but I couldn't find one that says that. I just use it to do something great. Same as the design. So inspirations along the way, basically, things that make me want to spend time in that part of Notion.
I love that.
Yeah. So what the story? I mean, it's not a company yet, but it's aspirational. So it's right there. And I write the archives because I've saved every iteration of the website and the ideas I've used so that someday, if I need to look at how things have evolved, it's right in the archives. And the library is pulled in from my resources, which is the library, which is where I store things that I learned personally and professionally as well. So whatever relates to this project professionally, I put that in the library. I don't know what that looks like. That's why I'm not clicking on it right now. But
a lot of information.
Yeah, I will click on some other things later. And then right here are the tasks that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to deal with this. So
that's what I find really interesting too is the visuals that you're using with your tasks too, right? So like obviously you're more inclined toward a more visual representation in your Notion, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, it's something that I put whatever would inspire me. So if I have an image in a task, it's because I want that extra bit of motivation. If it's something that I know that I don't want to do. So like reach out to previous inquiries. I just find it hard. It's even though I'm in customer world, it's still something that I'm trying to get better at even. Yeah. And I need that little bit of a visual thing to remind me. If not, I just wouldn't get to it.
Yeah. I like that now, next, on ice. Are those the categories? Are there more categories, or is that that's kind of how you think about it in terms of importance?
Yeah, so this is taken from Kanban. It's the now, next, backlog, whatever. But I just use things that make more sense to me personally. Yeah. So what I'm doing now, what I should do next, I have shelved. I don't want to do it right now. And not yet is ideas, I guess. And this not yet is not being used properly because, as I mentioned, each one of these have the ideas that I'm exploring. So once I organize this better and I have concrete action items, then I can start adding those to the not yet section. And
And so what's above there, like pillars, customers, marketing, those are your areas, right? Using the paradigm.
Areas within this area.
Okay, interesting.
So it's like mini paras. So there we go. So,
yeah. So would another area would have marketing as its own, area. So you don't have like one marketing place. It's sort of like they have their own marketing page, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So
Cool.
the way I see area is not necessary. Like I just see it as where I'm trying to improve on, and then each thing that I'm trying to improve on has its own subset. So my area is actually they're probably not the way you should use it, but they're very wonky. So Moz, I'm trying to be, the best I can as a Moz employee. Access Brain, which is where my Access Brain is, where I'm working on random ideas. My
Yeah.
best life, how can I be the best person I can? I'm trying to be good with money. Then I'm trying to travel more. Well, not this year, but it's still there in the back burner.
Back burner, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a lifelong project. It's basically my story. So it's gonna happen sometime.
Really cool. And so these are these gallery? No, it's not a gallery, is it? Those are like images with
No, it's gallery.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so then
gallery.
each of these, I guess, would have its own properties at the top, active projects and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I can actually open the Moz one. So the Moz is an area that I'm working on actively, and then it has its own dashboard. So each area has its own dashboard. So I have my vision. So obviously it starts from what the company is trying to achieve, and then what my team is trying to achieve, what I'm trying to achieve, how I see things, what I value, what I need to remember. Not all of these are used every time. So the way I use my Notion is it's not necessarily every aspect of this is not used every day, not even every month, not even every year. They're just there when I need them. So it gets me out of my head instead of trying to figure out, oh, what are my values? Or when I have a meeting with my manager and it's like, how can I support you more? What do you value? I don't even have to think about it because I had taken a day to think about it before. I just click, I can just show you. Autonomy, respect, trust, creative freedom. I like to own things. That's it.
Love it.
And yeah. And then when I have my one-on-one, for example, I would write like the agenda from the previous meeting and what I'm trying to discuss next. Things like that. This one I'm trying to make even better. I take note of random playlists and things that people share. So I'm trying to organize it better and share this with people.
I love it. What's interesting is a lot of your stuff, it leans more toward pages, and like there's a lot of simplicity in there that is actually, it's really easy to access. It's really easy to figure out. It's really elegant. And so the Moz stuff, is that only for kind of your own use case? Like it's not something that you would kind of add team members onto, like it's just really for your own maintenance?
Yeah, it really is for my own maintenance. And if I ever need to collaborate with a team member, since I can make this a page that I can share with someone.
Yeah.
So they're just part of that little section.
I love that. I'm already getting little ideas of like how I can clean up my space. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely keeps evolving. Like I'm sure most people's Notion spaces evolve. I've tried things that are way more complicated, but it keeps coming back to context. That's what I think of. So when I'm in the context of work, what do I want to know? I need to keep I need to have my vision on what we're trying to do. If I'm trying to, what relates to my role, what is the personal stuff. So the inbox is right there because when you're working, sometimes you might have some ideas, but you don't want to get distracted with personal stuff while you're working. So I just go straight to the inbox and put down the notes and then jump back into.
Nice, yeah. And so that inbox, is that like a global inbox then that you could add to from different places as well?
Yeah, so it's for everything.
Nice.
And then every day I come back and clear this out. And that's why I have this. I used to have like a mailbox there before, but I don't know, it just seemed overwhelming. I like to have, this is aspirational. It's what I want this to look like. I want this to be a clean note. Yeah.
I love that. Alana was asking, are all these stock images built into Notion or do you get them elsewhere? I'm really visual. Also, Ola, can you show me all of us in person when I visit next?
Okay, yeah, Alana is my friend. I figured, I kept hearing the name. Yeah, I can. Some are stock, some are uploaded. Like this one was taken at MozCon last year. And this just reminds me that, what I'm doing is for my team. So I have a
Yeah.
picture with my team here. Um, yeah, like in my main dashboard, I have a picture of a Tesla. And
Hey.
it's because it's a dashboard. It's like, how do I
Yeah.
say it? Yeah, I'm driving myself to my goals. So
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I know, but people have different opinions on this stuff too. And I know, Danny, who's in the chat too, I think was probably cringing. He's like, oh, it takes up so much space. I just want to like get the things done. But for me, I probably see Notion a little bit more like you, where I want the space itself to be a reminder. It's like an intention setting, I guess. Every time you open those pages, it's like, here's what matters, here's what's important. And there's like a spaciousness that you feel when you land on those pages that I think it's just such a delight, and it's so much more unique than, say, spreadsheet or Google Doc or whatever. There's something really nice and inspiring, or at least the potential to be inspiring about these pages. So I really appreciate that.
No, I was definitely in Danny's camp before. Of I want everything to be simple. I want super minimalist, and it was depressing. I didn't want to use any of the spaces. So I actually had a different page. So I had everything very minimal, and then I had a dashboard that was called mood board, and it had like my mood board for different things. And I didn't find that effective. I found that I wasn't using that mood board. And what I found to work for me is having mini inspirations in each context.
Like you said, turn your spaces themselves into a mood board. So the whole thing is kind of I really like
exactly.
that.
So when I'm in this, I know this is the mindset that I have. So as I said, the Muzz one is I know I'm working for my teammates, so that's whatever I do is for the team. And this one is, okay, I'm in the driver's seat, so I'm trying to get stuff going. And then I remind myself to do it with intention.
Yeah, and I like even the simplicity of, it's not like you're showing a car, you're actually showing it from the inside. So these little things that like prime us, right? It's like you're priming your brain for success, I think can be really powerful.
Right.
I love that. Danny was asking, do you clip information into the inbox database?
Yes, I do. You'll see right here, the web clipper. Do I have one right there? Interesting, not here. Yeah, but I do. Most of what I do is on my phone anyways. So I do use the Notion web clipper. Yeah, that's how I get most things into the inbox.
So you, like, let's say you're, stumbling upon an article that you want to read, would you just send it right to the inbox, and then as part of your processing, you would kind of send it to the resources, or you'd send it where it needed to go?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Also in the inbox, I used to have like a bunch of filters for the type of resource it was. If this is a book, article, then I found out that it wasn't as efficient for me, because now I just dump something here and I just go to whatever this is and I just drag and drop. So the fact that this is clean, it means it's not pulling in some random property into the new space.
Yep, I love that.
Yeah.
I find your space really inspiring. I'm getting lots of ideas of just even like simple ways I can simplify some of that stuff and even make it more visually appealing. So I really enjoy your space. Yeah.
Thank you. And a lot of them are not like as complicated. Like the meal plan, it's just my meal plan for today. That's it. And then, so I don't have to think about it all day. Or if someone asks me to go for supper, I already know what my plans are.
I love that. Does anyone else have any questions or things that you want to see in more detail? I agree, Alana, this is pretty cool, right? It's like the idea that you don't have to keep any of this stuff in your brain. You know exactly where it's going to be. Any resources you saved, are in the resources. Everything's just has a place. And if you change your mind, it's not difficult to move things around. So can we see the meal plan for Friday?
Yep, I get that a bit delayed, but yeah, I'm sure it's there. All right. What else?
Somebody wants to see your Friday meal plan.
Friday meal plan. Oh, okay, cool.
They actually want to know what's in your Friday meal plan.
There we go.
That's so funny. There we go. Potato stuff. I like that. So simple.
Yep, like it's not that complicated because I know what it is, so I just don't. Yeah, I just potato stuff.
I love that. No, I think your space is a great example that, again, you're not spending so much time kind of overly engineering your space. You're getting what needs to get done, and it seems like it's inspiring and practical and really useful. Yeah.
Yeah, this might change again in a few weeks if I learn some new things. I don't know,
Yeah.
but for now, this works with the way I work for now. For now.
Yeah. Alana was saying, is there a downloadable version? I'm curious, Alana, are you talking about being able to download Ola's space or download Notion? Because there is a Notion
Yeah.
app and you can use it in the browser. So do you have templates that you've made available, or are you thinking about selling some templates?
In that's X's Brain products, that's
Uh-huh.
part of it. There's a lot of ideas I'm having. So um templates was never something that crossed my mind. But with the Blackfoot, actually, let me show you one of the things I didn't show you about the Blackfoot, which is what has helped me keep it for what it is right now. So initially, I wrote down the reminders for it. So it doesn't need to be fancy or perfect. It's just has to fulfill the goal. Yeah, this very important point. I won't monetize this in any way because it's
Mm-hmm.
very tempting to find ways to find sponsors to start.
Yeah, right.
There are creative ways to make money with it, but I didn't want to. But
Yeah.
this led me to the idea of creating useful resources for people that can be made into a template. So the answer to that is yes, I will create templates, but it won't just be like a template for using stuff. It would be a template that already has pre-filled resources.
Yes. Yeah, love that. I've talked about this before, but I see a lot of business owners that are kind of selling their own frameworks or selling their own
Mm,
approaches. Like you might even sell your own guidelines for user onboarding, or how to do customer research. Like you might almost create
right.
your own mini guidelines that's part template, part educational resource.
Right, exactly.
Love that.
One
That's
that I
really,
was thinking of yesterday was travel guides. So
yeah.
I started thinking of places I wanted to go to visit in BC because I've moved there over a year and I still haven't seen so many stuff. So I started creating a list. Then I was like, I wonder if someone would want this because that has all the places they want to see, and then it also has like
Check.
itinerary, yeah, checklist and all whatnot. So it's an idea. I don't know where that would go. There's
Yeah.
a lot of those. I don't know if I can show that, but let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas I'll never get to. And yeah, and that's not including the scrapped ones. There's a lot of ideas.
I love it. The scrapped ideas. The
Yeah.
someday, maybe one day these will become ideas.
The scrapped ideas have been tested, but so that's where the lessons
Ah.
go to. Yeah. So in each one, I put the lessons, what I learned from them, and yeah.
Do you have some place where you kind of centralize that learning, or would you have to go into the scrubbed ideas? Like I could almost see a database of lessons learned that could almost be a global thing that you would add to over time. It could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about that I haven't done yet. So I'm thinking of creating one database, like you said, and have like a section of what worked, what didn't work, and have all of them like pull into one. So I know what works for projects overall.
Yeah,
So
I think Conrad Lynn had something like that. Because like in my daily journal, for example, I got the gratitude, the highs, and then lows and challenges. And I thought if
yeah,
the lows and challenges got added to a global database, that could be really interesting, just to be like, oh, what are the things that challenge me over time? And you've kind of got this bank of them that you can, work toward overcoming some of those challenges.
yeah. I actually had an example like that,
Love.
but I don't use it as frequently. So I found, like I said to you, I found myself using Notion too much. Then I was using Notion to do stuff. So
Yeah.
now I use it when I need it. It's almost like a supplement. When I feel like I am losing my direction, I then start doing a check-in. So you would see like this is very inconsistent. Like in 2019, I was all over the place. So I was doing a lot of this highlight of my week, rating, highlights, what went well, what could have been well. I was doing
That's really
this.
cool.
And then I went through a period where I felt satisfied with where I was. So then I didn't do any. And so this was when I launched the Access Brain, and this is when Blackfoot started. And I logged what could be better, and I've been doing what could be better since then. And maybe in a few months, if I'm not feeling well again, I'll come back and do this again.
I really like this. Yeah. What went well? What could be better? What did I learn? What will I stop doing?
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Really amazing to see this.
Yeah.
I just always love seeing people's brains and just how they show up in Notion.
Yeah.
So cool. Does anyone else have any questions or anything that you want to ask Ola? I work the same way. Go crazy overboard at first, and then dial it back to the essence. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that, because like again with Notion, you can do so much, and then people go a little nuts, and then you're like, oh wait a second, am I actually using this day to day? Is it helpful for me day to day? How is this serving me? So it sounds like you've found a groove that's really working for you, but it can also change, right? Like over a couple weeks or months, you might decide you want to approach something differently.
Yeah, the analogy I use is like X-Men, like Cyclops, when he first discovered he could shoot fires. He went crazy, and then he had to get the glasses and then be able to use the power when he needs it.
Yeah.
So formulas and whatnot, I still use those things, but just when I need to.
Yeah, no, I love that. Gorgeous space, Ola, and the project is really awesome. I love how you shared just how simple it can be when you start, like the idea of crowdsourcing, just using a Google Sheet, a Google Doc, keep it really simple. But yeah, it's like, what's next for you? What's the next, I guess, thing that's really exciting for you that you want to work on next?
Yeah, keep paying attention to problems people have and see how I can solve them. I'm really, really interested in the idea of the templates, so I will start doing more stuff around that.
Yeah.
But yes, that's basically it. Just what I have in my Access Brain dashboards. I want to explore those more. That's the next goal.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing this project with us. Where can people find you online? What's the best, where are you most active, or what's the best place to kind of keep in touch?
Yeah, lately it's been Twitter mostly. I use Instagram, but that's mainly for personal friends. Twitter would be the best, just Ola King. So literally just Ola King.
Just Ola King. Cool. I think it's linked in the description of the event. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you everybody who came today. I know I'm going to be cleaning up my workspace this weekend. I really loved seeing behind the scenes. So thank you so much, Ola, for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the 98 of you for being here.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks so much, everybody. Definitely check out the Blackfoot project. The link is below in that little teal button. And check out Just Ola King on Twitter. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye for now.